Thank you, everybody, for attending our second town hall for the independent living. We're going to have Laura come up here and go through some questions that some residents have asked. I had about 50 to 55 questions that were submitted to me. Of course, we're not going to be able to go through all of the questions, but we'll definitely be going through some of the common questions, so that way we're providing the right information to the residents. This is going to be recorded, so that in the event that you missed it, you can definitely watch it. It will show next week on the 18th at 8 p.m. on CTV, and it'll also be in Odyssey. As best as she can, Laura will do her best to try to keep it the same as yesterday. It's not going to be exact, but we'll try to keep her grounded to not go and say anything differently. So without further ado, if you guys don't mind, let's give a round of applause to Laura CHIPCAST.
Thank you, everybody. I learned yesterday when you talk for an hour and a half, your lips get stuck to your teeth. So I will take more water breaks today. What Mike said is true. I am going to try to stick to exactly what we said. In saying that, I never write speeches. I wing everything that I talk about, so it's kind of hard. Mike did so kindly get all the questions from all the departments and the residents. So the resident questions were pretty much, I would say, 5 or 6 topics for the most part. And the reason we ended up reaching out to our directors and our staff was they're the ones that take the phone calls. So what common questions do you hear over and over again? We might as well add those in. We are keeping this as just independent living, because what happens when we do resident council and we have independent living and 55 plus together, it gets confusing. And then there's usually kind of some argument in my office space where Kim Murphy sits, where everybody's arguing about what I said and didn't say. So we're trying to have less arguments over what was said and not said. Now, in saying that, we had really hardly any response from the 55 plus. We had 5 residents say that they would be interested in a meeting and only 2 questions posed. So I tell you that because it seems that there's the most concern over the difference between the independent living and the 55 plus comes from the independent living, not the 55 plus. So we will be communicating to the 55 plus about their area as well. We will probably just do it a little differently. There's no reason to come sit in here if nobody's going to show up. So I will go ahead and get started. What I did yesterday was start with the questions that were posed from the staff. And if I start to stray, Mike has permission to go, hey, stop. You're making me nervous standing there. I feel like you're security or something, and something's going to happen that I don't know about. They look very nice right now. I'm just kidding. If you haven't picked up on it, I joke about everything. Okay, so one of the first questions that we had is what I think is a great question. So if you're new, you may not even know this existed. It came from sales. There used to be a resident referral program. I don't know why it just kind of stopped existing, but we're definitely going to get that program back up and running. I think it's an amazing thought to bring your neighbors that you lived by or that you want to live by that you didn't get to live by before. Why not make the community that you live in all the people that you want to live by? So I don't know the details to how the program was working. I've asked them to get it revised so that we can start rolling it out again in April. That will be rolled out by Logan, who is the new Senior Director of Sales and Marketing. She just started with us about 2 weeks ago, and I have been working closely with her over the last 2 weeks on the changes that we want to see in marketing the community, and one of those things being that we wanted to roll out the resident referral program. I'm just going to go in order, so no crazy order here. Our next set of questions was from Ken in IT. Apparently, there's a lot of question over what is the Wi-Fi password. It's never changed. It's the same as it has always been. It's HFV resident. We're not planning to change that password because if it works, we're not going to try to change it. Also, it would create too much confusion over everybody that needed to reset their password. I'm assuming everybody has that scribbled down somewhere in their apartment, so I don't want you to have to change that. We will post it on the bulletin boards. Did you make note of that? Yes. Thank you. Does IT or building services hang TVs? They can hang TVs. However, there is a charge for hanging TVs. You're going to hear me say the word charge quite a few times probably in this discussion. What I think has happened over the years is we really haven't changed a lot of the way the building was operating under Henry Ford. For some reason, things just kind of stopped happening. In my experience, when you change ownership or you change managers, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, suddenly people just start doing something different, and you have to kind of pull them back. So because this is completely independent living, there was usually charges for specific things that were available. Those are the ancillary charges. They're in your contract. They get updated annually. I know they updated once during the time I've been here. I don't think that there was an actual change in a charge. They just updated it. So if you do have a TV, you can call down to building services and you can make an appointment and they will hang that for you, and then the charge goes on to your monthly statement. Mike Lewinsky from security posed about 3 or 4 questions for me. So the first one is, what time should a resident open their front door for latch check? Latch check begins at 10 a.m. Now, I can't tell you if it begins in the same building every day at 10 a.m., but it begins at 10 a.m. So if you are the early riser, go ahead and open up that door. When that latch just gets opened up, they're no longer going to worry about you. If 11, 12, 1 o'clock rolls around and they're walking by your room and that latch is still on, they're going to do the quick security check. Latch check does take an extremely long period of time. If you think about it, there's somebody walking every floor of every building twice a day. Somebody puts the latch on, somebody makes sure the latch is off. I don't know how many latches on average are not off that has to stop them to knock to make sure everybody's okay. While that is a great system, we are looking at some systems to update with that don't involve people walking the hallways. When we look at those systems, what we'll do is we'll ask a few residents to see if they're interested in helping to review the use of the system. I know one of them is essentially like, I don't want to say video activated, but it's like motion activated, so we wouldn't actually see in your apartment. We're not looking at that. But like if we put a motion sensor near maybe the front door in the kitchen, so everybody's getting up, I'm assuming, having coffee, something to drink. So if it detects that there's motion, then you're okay. If it detects by a certain time there's no motion, it would send an email to security, and then security would know they have to go contact you. So that gives them time to not just walk to walk, but it gives them time to be able to make sure they're doing other things. In saying that, large campus. So while we look for these things to possibly be updated, we also have to consider the cost that it's going to take to update those things. And then from there, when we collect that information, we do let Sage know what the cost is, and they do get to be the ones that say what we're spending our money on that month. So we are looking into that. Do you need to show your ID when approaching the gate? If you're a resident that's been here for a while, you realize that you have a barcode sticker for your car. I don't know how and why, because barcodes have not left our life, but you can't buy barcode stickers. Not sure why. So we had Guardian come out here, who is the original ones that did that system, and they're looking at the different ways we can change things to update it because we can't get the stickers. The current thought, which is the most economical thought, is to put the same kind of sensor that you see outside of the doors, about yay big, but they have a large one. I don't know how large is. I'm picturing like this large, where you could pull up and you could hold your card out there, same card, and the gate would activate. That is relatively inexpensive. If we had to do something new and rewire, you're talking easily over $100,000. So we're trying to go with the cheaper version so that if it's not broken all the way, we don't want to necessarily have to redo it, and then that leaves us more money to spend in other areas. Our goal is to have that system put into place as soon as possible, and that has been presented to SAGE. Pull cords. You all have a pull cord in your apartment. So the question is, what is that for? Apparently that system is not being used correctly on a regular basis, and people are using the pull cord system to say they want to talk to Joe, the social worker. Well, Joe is a nice guy. That's not what the system's for. So the system is for emergency purposes. If we find that somebody is using the pull cord system incorrectly, consistently, we handle each of those cases on a case-to-case basis. So if it's Mike and he's using it wrong and he just doesn't want to follow direction, because if you talk to Mike, you know that happens sometimes. If he just doesn't want to follow directions, we're going to let Mike know, hey, the next time you use this pull cord system incorrectly, we're going to charge you the $25 charge, which is in your ancillary packet, so that way it hopefully prevents that concept of people using things incorrectly, which causes somebody from security to stop what they're doing to go find out somebody wants to talk to Joe, when somebody else could be across the campus that actually needs security assistance. If we find Mike can't understand what's happening, now we'll take that on a different level and we'll talk to the family and we'll reach out and we'll be the resources that we need to be to help determine, is there a concern? Is there a long-term concern? Is this time to talk about maybe assisted living? Do we need to give a resource shout out to Homestead so there can be some extra hands on board for some extra care? I know that's not the conversation anybody wants to have, but that's what we have to look at that point in time. Is everybody able to understand the pull cord? Does setting off the smoke alarm require security to come in and check? Yes, it does. We're checking for two things. We're checking to see if there's damages, and those damages could potentially become a bigger issue later. And we're also checking to make sure that whatever happened does not put all of you at risk. So if somebody, I didn't know there was a door over there. If somebody, usually it's toast. Toast sets off the smoke alarms a lot, and bacon. Bacon sets off. So let's just say the security team goes in there and they see that somebody is cooking something and they're consistently burning it to the point where, especially if it's bacon and it's grease, a grease fire is nothing that we want to be lax about. That may cause us to have to talk to somebody about the safety concerns that we have, because those safety concerns then would affect the entire community. Obviously, we're not just pulling the cord, you gotta go. We're not looking at doing anything like that. Our goal is to keep everyone here in the community that they wanted to be in as long as possible. That's why we have the extra resources. But in saying that, we have to make sure that everybody as a whole is safe. So those do mean tough conversations with some individuals. Let's see, where's my number 4? Okay, this is for dining. Everybody was waiting for this one, I think. I'm gonna do the easy ones first. There are some questions being posed regularly. Why is a product not available? You have skim milk, 2% milk, whole milk. So maybe sometimes skim milk is not available, maybe sometimes 2% is not available. This is not that we're not ordering it. We are getting our product from the middleman. So if you think about, we may order skim milk, 2% milk, and whole milk on Monday, we're not the only person that they're delivering to. We can't even say for sure that we're the first delivery that's made. If the person that's set out to deliver does not even have the product to deliver, say they don't have 2% milk, they're still going to come. They're not going to call us in advance. They're not going to call the other 20 stops that they have in that day to say we're out of 2% milk. When they get here, they really work with the managers to understand and know, hey, if you're out of a product, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to just forget it? Do you want us to substitute it with something else, half more skim, half more whole? Those kind of things also can create a shortage in the product if you're at the end of the list of deliveries, which we do not get to set up. We don't get to pay extra to be at the beginning. It doesn't work that way. And as a matter of fact, with some of the issues that are going on, which I'm sure everybody is watching on the news, and no, this is not going to be a political conversation, we just had a phone call the other day that we cannot get shelled eggs currently from Gordon's. Now, will we get them on our next delivery? I'm not sure. I was sharing yesterday, I went to 3 stores this weekend to get shelled eggs, and all 3 were out. So I'm looking at getting chickens. I don't know if we can get the group together and get some chickens. I know it's 3 per household. I don't know what they would do for us. But it's actually to the point where shelled eggs are almost impossible to get sometimes when you go out. So we knew it was going to hit us sooner or later. We don't get to set precedence and priority because of the population we serve. And hopefully all of that kind of starts to come down. Carryouts. Okay, I know this is a sore subject. We looked at carryouts, we looked at what was done in Henry Ford times, because again, none of us are taking away the success of the property at that time. We just know that things change, and over a 30-year period of time, some things are gonna change. But what was originally done makes sense again today. If you think about the 2 areas, well, we'll just start with windows. Not really a big deal. You go up, you place your order, it usually comes in a carry-out container anyways, and you get to sit and eat it, or you get to take it back to your apartment, whatever you want to do. Not gonna change. St. Clair, that is a buffet. I don't know if anybody's been to a buffet recently. You don't get to take carry-outs out of a buffet. I personally worked at Ponderosa for a number of years. That was my very first job. Nobody got to take carryouts. I know Golden Corral is the big one right now. You don't get to take carryouts. The problem and reason being that there are a number of people that are going up to the buffet and taking 10 chicken. So then the next people come up and there's no chicken. So the concept of the buffet is going to stay the same as a buffet would outside of the black fence. No carryouts. In Great Lakes, they will take your food and box it up for you in the kitchen. So if you've ordered anything recently from any of these meal delivery places, you'll see that your food comes and it's all stapled and bagged and stickers and everything. That's so we know they didn't eat it. But for a different purpose, we're doing something similar in Great Lakes. The whole goal, again, is to make sure that I didn't just decide that I really liked those eclairs and I'm going to take all of them so none of you get them. Sadly, it happens. Why it's happening, we have to get down to. So if somebody is bringing in their own carryouts, they will get a warning. It's not okay. We see them in the walkers. We know they're there. I am not asking the servers to confront people and argue in the dining room. They will make note of it. They will ask the manager, who will politely say something, we will give you a phone call, and then you will get a charge. It is what it is. If there is someone that is identified as not having the finances to go out and get more groceries, and so they are hungry, we will help you work with resources to get you that food that you need. We do not want anybody going hungry. We just can't always take it from the other people that are around that then don't have it. So we will help you get those resources. If you're just hoarding food because eclairs are your favorite, you're gonna have to go to the store and get some eclairs because we cannot keep just hoarding food. And mostly when you do that, you're usually probably not eating it anyways. So Stacy is revising that policy or guideline that was put out. However, that is going to be really what it says. She's currently busy and unable to make some typing changes, but since the day I was in here in resident council, that's pretty much what she's been doing over there in Great Lakes, is going ahead and boxing up the carryout for herself, or for themselves to give to staff, or give to residents, sorry. That is all of the questions that came from the staff, but because those questions came, it kind of made me think of a couple things that Mike and I, believe it or not, when you see us sitting in Mike's office, if you come to visit, we're usually sitting in there scratching our heads trying to figure out what can we get across to everybody the best way possible, what affects the entire property and the majority of the residents. This place, being the size that it is still no different than any other place I've ever worked at. There's always a handful of people that are the loudest, and they usually get heard the most. We are not forgetting those of you that choose not to talk out loud. We know that you exist. We know that you are not being spoken for all the time, and we are not trying to make the louder people write the rules. So we want to make sure everybody understands we get that the residents live here, and we're here to help make living successful. We are the resources. We are the rule makers. We are the people that have to put policies in place or guidelines in place or say no to make everybody live cohesively. We are looking at everybody from the lowest income to the highest income that we accept here. So we are looking at all of it. We just want everybody to realize that. The reason that I say that is there's been a lot of questions about this rollout for resident life. What does that mean? Resident life did become, and I know I'm straying here a little bit, Mike. Resident life did become dictated by a lot of the people that were asking for things specifically most often. So there was an entire activities person or resident life person literally working on somebody's personal things that they wanted done because they were coming consistently and loudly. It's not okay. We can't monopolize the time of one when we have so many people around that would like to benefit from different programs. What we saw happen was that those few people that are taking up the most of the time, it wasn't a one and done. It wasn't, let me get this done for you, and then I can go on to see everybody else and talk with everybody else. It was the next issue they had to, and then the next, and then the next. And then you start to realize we can't have one resident life person for every apartment. We can't have one for every floor. So we have to make sure that we rewrite things. The rollout was mostly for the staff to understand what their role is and for us to reintroduce that to everyone. So that might mean if Nancy was the person that did something for you all the time, that may not be something that a staff member is going to do anymore. Nancy may have, out of the kindness of her heart, went down a path where suddenly Nancy was only doing things that she wasn't even supposed to be doing that were not benefiting everybody. They were benefiting just a few. So that is one of the reasons that the rollout is coming, and it is pretty much completed. We're just trying to get all the information typed up and condensed. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the resident-based questions. I feel like I'm making really good time today. There was one question, this is the only time we're gonna bring up 55 plus again. What is the difference between independent living and 55 plus? There's two main differences. The first difference is 55 plus does not have any meal credits. They knew that when they signed up. They are not starving. They usually are working still, or they have made resources to something else, or they just like to cook. They don't want anybody else's food. So they said, I don't want to be a part of that. They also are not supposed to be a part of resident and staff run activities unless it is something that is a facility related as a whole. So holidays. I'm not going to tell 55 plus people you don't get to be a part of our holiday. Just not going to happen. Anything like the fundraiser, like the longest day, of course you can be a part of that. The individual, smaller led activities are not geared towards the 55 plus. That is a separate program. There are places out there other than us that do the same kind of thing. They just might call it something different. The goal of that program is to attract younger individuals that are working. I made note the other day, today's my fiance's birthday, he's 55, so technically we qualify to live here now. I told him, like, you know we can go live at Alegria Village now. I'm not coming to live here. I just want you to know, I don't know if that would be a good thing for us to all live together, and then I get to make the rules. But what I'm saying is that's the goal, is to find people that are still working, to come live here, to be here. That way they can grow into the community. So maybe they come at 55, maybe they come at 58, 60, and they're still working. They just don't want to live next to the 24-year-old that's partying until 2 in the morning with their music going, or the young family that has the 3 kids that are running the track above them. So they come here hoping to not find any of you running a track above them or playing music till 4 in the morning. And I think it works. They just want to be here for that atmosphere. They don't necessarily want to be a part of the activities yet or worry about the meals, but they know that they can grow into that. There are rules behind changing from one to the other. I'm not going to get into all of those, but we do allow it to happen. And I say that because there tends to be a lot of people fearing that the 55 plus people are left out and isolated. They got the choice. They made the choice. This is what they want. So you don't have to fear for them. They're okay. Okay. Apparently I said something on CHIPCAST that incited a couple questions. I just want you to know there is no script. I literally just talk. So I always fear somebody's going to write down what I said and I'm not even going to remember it. And I think that's what happened. There was a question of the chain of command and how does that work here at Alegria Village? When are we going to hear from Sam and Elise and Avi, who no longer is part of Alegria Village, or Sage, I'm sorry. Sage Management is not in the state, but Sage hired a regional director of operations. This is a common position in any type of healthcare setting. Maybe someplace else, but I've only worked in healthcare. So the regional director of operations is in charge of all 3 campuses. The administrator or executive director, whichever one you want to use, because it's the same thing, they report to the regional director of operations. So myself, Jennifer in assisted living, and Deja in skilled care, we report to Lexi, who hides and resides in the basement now. Lexi is corporate. So when people say, when are we going to hear from corporate, what you're saying is, I want to hear from Lexi. That is the way Sage Management has chose to set up their company, and that is how we're going to end up handling it. So if people want Lexi to talk on a topic, she definitely can. She can come do her own town hall. We can ask her to. She can come to resident council. I can invite her on CHIPCAST. Whatever fits, we'll do. I know she'll handle that situation fine, but there is no plan for anybody else to come. They put her here as their representative. She talks to them on a regular basis. So she is going to be the one that you see if you're asking for a corporate representative. Okay. I talked a lot on a CHIPCAST, and I think I talked in resident council about Park Home Health. So we have different areas of health assistance here for rehab and for just home health. So you have Link Therapy. Link Therapy bills your insurance. You can go to Link Therapy if you just feel like you are declining. Maybe you notice that before you could stand up off of the commode without holding on to the counter, and now you realize not only am I holding on to the counter, but it takes 1, 2, 3 to get up off, because that happens. Now you can talk to your doctor. The key is you have to see your doctor regularly. I don't know if people realize, and I don't know when this happened, but a while ago, doctors everywhere made a rule. If you don't see them annually, you are no longer an active patient. That does not mean they won't see you again, but you're going to have to go through becoming a brand new patient again. That is something that I think people really are not catching on to. If you see your doctor annually, and that's why we have doctors here also, so we have Dr. Asbahi in the medical clinic still, who will also come and do home visits. If you see your doctor regularly, your doctor can write you a script for for Link Therapy, so that way you say, hey, it's taken me a little bit more to get up than it did before. Instead of just hoping that stops, because it's not just gonna stop on hope. You have to work out. You gotta go do the therapy to get those muscles back in that working order. They can write you that script. If you have not seen your doctor, that's what they're gonna say. I'm not writing a script. I haven't seen anybody. They haven't been here in 5 years. So for you to go to Link, you're gonna have to see a doctor. If you want to change your doctor, you don't have to change your primary physician. If you've been seeing Dr. Bob for 20 years, and you want Dr. Bob to be your physician still, because one day you might want to go back and see him, you can keep him. You can still sign up to go see Dr. Asbahi here. And that way, you don't feel like you're making such a commitment to leave the person that you were seeing for so long that helped you through things. But you can still sign up to see him. Now, if you have any issues that come up, you have somebody that's right here. So you don't have to worry about going out of the community to see somebody. So you have Homestead. What is Homestead? They're private duty. They don't have nurses. They don't have certified nurses' aides. They have caregivers. So a caregiver just means that they've been trained to assist people with care. A certified nursing assistant, and that's who you find in hospitals and in skilled care, they've actually taken a class, they passed a test, and they have to do continuing education. A certified nursing assistant can work as a caregiver. A caregiver cannot work as a certified nursing assistant. So Homestead is just for private duty. Maybe you need a little bit of assistance a couple times a week to get something done. Maybe you need just an hour of assistance almost every day. The way for you to do that is to get Homestead. That is an out-of-pocket cost. So what is Park? Because Park is who I said we partner with, and why did we pick Park? There's an in-between area. It's called home health. This is actually nurses, CNAs, therapists, physical therapist, occupational therapist, sometimes it's wound care specialist, there's a social worker, there's a dietitian. Home health essentially operates kind of like the outside skilled care world. So when you leave skilled care, so if you've gone into rehab, they say to you, we're gonna set up a prescription for somebody to come and do home health with you. That's what that is. If you go to the hospital and you don't have a qualifying stay to go to rehab, but they still think, hey, you've been here quite a few times recently for some falls, you look like you're getting a little weaker, but either you don't want to go to skilled care because we know nobody really wants to go to skilled care. We know. Then you can get that home health script. The good thing about home health that's different from Link is home health comes to your home. So let's just say you did get out of the hospital and say you were sick. God forbid you had the C word, COVID, that does not exist anymore in our world, if at all possible. If you're really that tired and you're just like, I can't make it down to Link, so I'm not gonna do it. This is where you can get home health. So they will come into your apartment and they will work on strengthening you in your apartment. Then if you're progressing, and you're progressing so much so that home health says, hey, we can no longer cover you, they may be able to get the doctor to recommend you to Link therapy. So now instead of getting just 3 or 4 weeks of therapy, you could potentially get months of therapy. And months of therapy equals you staying here longer in the independent living sessions, instead of us saying it's time to move to assisted living. So that's why we're partnering with people. Why did we choose Park? There is a gazillion home healths out there. I could probably have 10 walk into the office every day. Here's the problem with home health. Sadly, they hire a lot of the same people that everybody else hires because there's only so many people in the world to hire. And I don't know why, but COVID has seemed to exacerbate this. A lot of people don't go out of their way to do a lot of work these days. If I'm a home health person and I pull into the campus, which at the gatehouse our security team does explain, if you do not have a badge, you have to go to one of these 3 doors to get in. And what do? They drive up to any other door and try to get in. Now, nobody happens to answer the door and let them in the hallway. So what do? They leave. And they say, couldn't find them. They didn't answer the door. They don't go to their boss and say, I didn't pay attention to what the security gate told me, and I didn't really try that hard, and I didn't go back and tell anybody. They just leave. Your prescription for home health does run out. Your insurance company won't cover it if they magically show back up 2 weeks later. If they show back up, because you're gonna have to call them and say somebody didn't show up. And then you're gonna have to risk that same somebody comes out here, does the same thing. So, since we know that happens, and I've watched them do it, I watched the state of Michigan sit outside of my office and say they couldn't find the door to enter. I said, well, I watched you. I watched you outside of my office. I watched you not get out of your car, and I watched you pull right back out. So how hard did you try? So that's why we partnered with somebody, because now I have direct contact with Jonathan. Park is not owned by Sage. It is not partnered with Allegria Village in any financial way. It is partnered in the way that Park is a home health. He's new. He's anxious to make a good name for himself. He doesn't give the same spiel to everybody else and not show up. He partnered with Corewell Hospital. Most of us are gonna go to Corewell if there's an emergency. So why not partner with a home health at Corewell? Now that kind of completes the circle. So we know that you have access to all the same people that are looking out for you for all the same reasons. If Park, who will come to our risk meeting, comes into the building, so the intake nurse is Malika. She's got my phone number. She's got Joe's phone number. She's got Mike's phone number. So if Malika comes to take in an intake, because you're supposed to be signed up for home health, and you don't answer the door, maybe you're down at Windows getting breakfast, maybe you're visiting your neighbor that you didn't get to see, who knows? If you don't answer the door, Malika's not just gonna wander back out into the parking lot and leave for the day. Malika is gonna get a hold of one of us to say, hey, they didn't answer their door, what are we gonna do? How am I gonna get a hold of them? We're gonna help get a hold of you. If we don't get a hold of you that day, we're gonna stalk you, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna constantly try to get a hold of you. We want you to be able to get what your insurance wants to pay for you to get to keep you healthy to stay here. If for some reason, I keep hearing that we can't get a hold of anybody, or Malika's not trying to get a hold of anybody, that's when I call Jonathan and say, hey, this is what you told me. You're not doing it. You're not living up to your word. That is more important than I think people probably really realize at this point in time. I had hospice companies. There's a million of them. I had a hospice company come to my last building one time, gave me this huge spiel about how great they are, brought us lunch, they're the best hospice ever, they have all these things, just give us a chance. That's all we want. Okay, 3 days went by. We had a number of residents that we had been talking to about hospice. So we said, hey, here you go. We gave them 3 referrals. We don't have staff. You were just telling us how great you were. In most home health and hospice, they're just like everybody else. They have a salesperson. Do you think the salesperson knows what's really happening when those people come in here to provide care? No, the salesperson gives the spiel that they were taught to give, and they're not following up. So once again, I circle back to Park. Park is Jonathan's company. I have called Jonathan, and he has texted me on the weekend at 9 o'clock at night, because sadly, sometimes we don't really have a life but talking about how to make things better. He's trying. He's calling me about people in the assisted living. Okay, I can't answer that. Well, let me look it up. Maybe I can answer it. So that's important, because Jonathan is not sending a salesperson in here to tell me they can help you and then telling me 2 days later, we don't have staff. Something else that Jonathan is also working on with Link is there is a shortage of therapists out there. When I went into this field as a dietitian 25 years ago, I thought, why didn't I become a therapist? Because they seem like they had the best schedule ever. Therapy is not a fun world to be in these days. It's all about productivity. So therapists, their clout of being a therapist and what that means has gone kind of down in the world. There's not a lot of people that are going into school to be a therapist. So it's harder for them to find people. Jonathan reached out to Link, and I believe they've come up with an agreement that if you're a Link therapist and you want to, nobody wants overtime for any of their employees at any company, right? We all know that. That's been forever. Well, guess what? Now you can go get some extra hours with Park. Now, if you have a favorite therapist, you may be able to use them in both areas. That was their goal behind that. Let's keep continuity in care. Do you have to use Park? Absolutely not. You have choices. If you go to the hospital or if you talk to your doctor and you say, I need some home health, you can say they partner with Park. But if you used residential or I'm not sure, for some reason my name dementia's kicking in, whoever else you used in the past, if you want to use them again, that's fine. Again, the only reason we partnered with somebody is because if everybody here is using a different home health and I don't know who it is, you don't have to tell me who it is. I can't really help you figure out how to get them to be responsible the way they need to, because they don't work for me. And I'm going to call somebody and they're going to tell me, oh yeah, we'll talk to them. Is it really going to do anything? Probably not. So again, our goal was just to provide you with the best possible services that are in the best interest for you. I think that was all the Park questions that we had. Okay, moving on to a little bit of CCTV. So there's been a lot of questions about Centrix. Why did we pick Centrix? WOW, I don't know when WOW got here, but let's just say WOW that did cable. Let me start with this, because there's still a lot of controversy over, did we kick WOW out? We did not kick WOW out. There is no such thing as WOW cable. What did we do? Well, WOW sent us a letter that said, hey, we're getting rid of our cable department because you're the only people using it. They were supposed to get rid of the cable department in December. Is December a good time for all of you to not have cable and to do that lovely switchover that happened where everybody was in a panic and there was no phones and no internet and we didn't have access and Ken ran around with Brandon like a chicken with his head cut off? Is that a good time to happen in December? We would all like to have nice, pleasant holidays. So December is a lot of time off for not only our employees, but for the employees for any of the new companies, for WOW and everything. So we did say, if you're only giving us a year, this is the date we're gonna pick. We picked a little bit earlier than December with a goal to not have a horrible December, because whatever that month was, it was not fun. Why am I talking about WOW? That was an obsolete cable line. I am not an IT person. I can only tell you that there are certain lines, those lines that were laid that long ago, nothing goes through those anymore. There's dead lines out there. There's new lines. If you can imagine how much it would cost to run new cable lines, or whatever they're called, I'm sure they're called something more high-tech than cable lines, but I'm okay with that. In this entire campus, you're talking upwards of easily $200,000. Not to mention, I know that Comcast loves to act like they have specials and it's $22 or $30. $30 a month. That's only for a very short time. It's more like $175 to $210 a month. And that can just be for basic. So if we went with the $200,000 cable line upgrade and went with a $200 a month cable bill, do you think that you would have had to see a rent increase? Correct. So what did we decide to do? We decided to do the most effective thing for you, which was to go with satellite. Is satellite the best system out there? Not really. Satellite does get affected by weather. It is a pain in the butt. Can you still stream? And streaming is complicated. Yes, it can be. That's why we have the IT department, and then Bill and Mike also help out with that. But streaming is the way that everybody's going. I no longer have cable at home. We stopped paying $180 a month because it was ridiculous. So now we stream, and you can get the same shows that you would get that way. And the good thing about streaming is we don't have to lay anything different at this point in time. You can just stream. So we did pick the satellite company because that was the easiest thing to do and the most effective. Before I left my last building, we had an issue with our cable, and we actually had satellite there, but all of our internet was through cable, and it was through Comcast. I was arguing with them, and they sent somebody out for 6 months to run a line from one end of my building to the other, which was nowhere near this. 6 months. Everybody kept coming out there. I don't know what the problem was other than whoever they were hiring really didn't want to do anything, so I think they just kept crawling up in a ladder and saying everything was okay, and then they'd leave and it never worked still. So when you think about how hard it is to get people to rewire a house or one building nowhere near half the size of these buildings, I would have to bet it would have taken God knows how long to get that cable run through here, if it could even have happened. And that would have taken a lot of time to be in your individual apartments, to potentially be tearing God knows what up in the building as well. It just was a decision that was the most effective decision. So why don't we have sports? Well, they chose not to have the sports package, by they I mean Centrix, as part of the primary package. You have to pay extra for the sports package. Why did we not buy the sports package? We're kind of waiting to see a little bit what happens with sports. If you're not a big sports person, or if you don't follow the behind the scenes details, I remember growing up all the time, I knew when baseball was coming because my dad was like, it's my TV, you don't get to watch it, baseball's on. Go outside. So now they don't even want to put any sports on free channels. If you paid attention, what was on Netflix? Was that one of the So Prime, Netflix, all of those packages that you have to pay for, they are vying to get all of the sports on those. And if I am the sports people, if I run the NFL, why wouldn't I want you to give me money? So if we buy the sports package, what happens if they make all these deals with these other people? Is that even going to talk to each other? So I'm waiting to kind of do the protest for you all of, hey, we need sports. Then there will be the question, if they need to raise the price, because I don't know what Centric Sports package costs, I have no idea, will everybody want to absorb that? So that's the reason that we have not pushed the sports at this point in time, because there's so many changes in that whole system of cable and streaming and who's paying who for what. Everybody's trying to get their money out of it. We're going to take a time out and see who wins at the end of the day, and then we'll figure out where we can fit in there. There was some questions about what's the difference with Scroll and Odyssey. Scroll used to just be information and also music. At some point in time, we put some programming on there. We went back to Scroll. It's just going to be information and music. We're sorry for messing with Scroll. Okay. Okay, next I'm going to head on over to some building services issues. So, why are we not doing improvements? Why are we not doing the lobby? Why are we not doing the floor? What's happening with the pipes? Where's the $14 million that this man Avi talked about? I don't know where the $14 million all ended up. Avi is not able to answer questions for me. Avi is not a part of SAGE. What I can say is that I don't even know if Avi was given permission to use $14 million. Maybe it was $4 million, I don't know. But it is the whole campus. So it is skilled care, assisted living, and us that the money is being spent on, and renovations are being looked at. If you go over to assisted living, you'll notice they did start over there. It's a smaller area. I don't know if it was needed more, I'm not sure. I imagine it was. If you think this through, assisted living and carpet is not a good thing. People have the dropsies a little bit more. Stains, way worse. So I think that's kind of why they started over there. Also, that gave us a chance to fix some of the things that needed to be fixed here. From my understanding, for whatever reason, the pipes in the hallway have been an issue for going on 7 or 8 years. I don't know why nobody was addressing it. I don't know if they were trying to address it and they couldn't find somebody to address it. I know that when Britt and I started working on this project, everybody he called that came out here was like, nope, we're not putting a bid. Nope. If you think about it, a lot of plumbing companies maybe have 10 people that work under them, unless they're more commercial plumbing. When you call commercial plumbing, they don't consider this commercial. So we kind of got stuck in a weird spot because these companies that have 10, 15 plumbers, for them to come out here and do what needs to be done to get these pipes in the hallway to stop leaking, they would essentially had to shut down all services but us. No company is going to agree to do that. They're not going to want to hope for the best that they spend months in here and they get paid at the end of that, whereas they could have done hundreds of jobs in between. So we did end up contacting a company called Goyette, so you've seen them here. They have officially repaired the pipes in CC in Chapel Court. I'm not saying that there's never going to be a leak again. That's not possible. These are the same pipes that we would have in our own home, that as our home ages, pipes break, pipes leak, roofs get old, everything needs to be repaired. But whatever this was, and again, I'm not a plumber, I just I was daddy's girl, so I held a lot of wrenches and I paid attention to a lot of comments, and I use YouTube to fix a lot of my own things. So I do try to get involved and act like I can do everything sometimes, but I know that what they said was, this was a huge job. Even Goyette, who has fixed things for me in the past, which were enormous, and they were at my building for over 2 months one time. They said this was a big job, and whatever it was because of the way the pipes work, and if I shut this off and that happens, and I started, okay, you guys are the plumbers, you guys can figure that out. So they did. We are moving on to another building after that. I believe KC was selected next. I don't have the date when KC is starting, but we're hoping to get KC starting up in April. That's Britton Mine's hope. Again, we can present a plan. It still has to go all the way up. So it makes sense for us to fix the pipes so that we can fix the ceiling and then fix the floor and all the wallpaper, because if I don't fix the pipes and I fix the floor and the wallpaper, I'm just throwing money out the window. It's frustrating for those of you that live here. I get it. I can't go back in time and tell you why and make up for the fact that 7, 8, whatever many years ago, they gave up. They didn't do it. I don't know why. But we are trying to right that ship now, and so we appreciate you being patient with us and understanding that this is a process that we have to go through. Our goal is to get all that done, and then hopefully as they're finishing up any type of renovations, they will be able to start renovating over here in the buildings that got that done. Because obviously they can't just renovate everything at one time. There's no way. Lobby improvements. Kind of the same thing a little bit. Believe it or not, even though everything seemed functional from the outside, there was not a lot of processes wrote down here. I'll use mine and Britt's favorite topic these days, which is grounds. For whatever reason, the person that was in charge of grounds didn't say, hey, this is what you should do daily. This is what you should do monthly, weekly. Somebody came in, said, what should I do today? Waited for them to say what they should do, and then they went and did it. It's not very effective. What happens if that person's off? Who's that person gonna go to ask now? And why don't they just have things wrote down? Why do I say that to you? Believe it or not, a lot of the things that function here in this huge place that requires a lot of systems, if this, go left, turn that, do this, ask this person, they weren't wrote down. So a system is only as good as a system it can be for multiple people. A system is not a person. Definitely not a person. What happens if, God forbid, something happens to that person? There's no system. So we have been rewriting the systems, and it's taken us a little bit of time because we have to research and see what was going on, why this, why that, what can we do? Is that gonna fit within budget? How can we make that happen? What do we have to get to make that happen? And then we really roll out the system to the staff. Then you gotta make sure the staff are aware of why the system are changing, because nobody likes change, even staff. So it takes a little bit of time. Also with the fact of, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of was shocked that there was so many things missing. And I didn't expect to come in here and have to rewrite so many things after campus stood for 30 years. It was just shocking to me. So once you get your feet on the ground and really get to know the building, then you can start to write systems. Writing systems without boots on the ground. This is a lot of times why I wear my tennis shoes. You'll see me running around. I'm always out there. I'm looking and asking questions. I don't understand things from behind a computer. I have to see things. That's how I've learned how to do things so often. Show me what you're doing. Show me why it can't be done. Maybe I see something different than you. So that's why you'll see us a lot of times out and about talking. We're really trying to figure out the systems so that we can rewrite them, tweak them, make sure everybody understands them. So why do I say that? There's been a trend lately where people are asking to talk directly to department heads, directors. Directors are supposed to be spending time not only directing, but, really system problem solving. So I don't expect Britt to be taking phone calls for work orders. So if you're one of the residents that thought that you should only call him for work orders, I need you to call the regular number that you get for work orders, which does go to a voicemail. It's easy for us to put those to a voicemail. We then listen to the voicemail. If we have to call for clarification, say you call, hi, I live in, a lot of people forget to tell us where they live, so they just tell us, hi, I have a problem, I have a leak, but we don't know where that leak is. So we gotta call that person back, or we look in our system to make sure if we know where they're at. Then we have to make sure that you're okay with us coming in. Now, if it's a leak, and it's in your contract, if it's a leak that can provide damage to somebody around you, we don't have to wait for your phone to ring and answer it. We can come in because it could affect your neighbor, below you, next to you, whatever it may be. But anyways, going back to the work orders, they'll listen to the work order, they'll listen to the voicemails, they write the work orders. So how do the work orders get completed? Well, that's a good question. So it's kind of a little bit of it's a twofold situation. They are a first come, first served basis, but let's just say Mike calls, he wants a TV hung. I call after Mike and I tell him and I say, hey, not only is my garbage disposal not working, but it's leaking below my sink. Do you think that there's a priority from a TV being hung to a garbage disposal and a leaky pipe? Yes, there's a priority. So we do have to balance it out. However, for the first time since I've been here, we have a full maintenance team. And not only that, but we have a full effective maintenance team. So they are working diligently on getting work orders completed in a very timely manner. Again, though, I need you to remember, Britt is one person. He's not a system. He's the director. So the system is when you have an issue, you call the building services phone number and you leave a message. The person that answers the message is putting in the work order. The work order gets passed to the appropriate maintenance person. They come to your apartment and they get it completed. While we're talking about building services, I'm going to go back to some of the questions that we had that come in regularly, and this goes back to the ancillary services. Do we provide light bulbs, and do we put them in? This is a little tricky because there's a lot of light bulbs. Some people still have those old long tube fluorescent lights in the kitchen square. Nobody likes to put those in. Yes, we will put those in for you. A lot of people have a lamp, table lamp, regular light bulb. If you need us to get a light bulb and screw that in, we're going to charge you. It's going to happen. There are light bulbs in the market that you can buy if you choose to not go out or use Amazon or whoever you use to get light bulbs. So you can go to the market and get one and screw it in. But we do have to draw the line at everything that we're doing, because if you can't screw in the lamp light bulb or you don't have anybody to screw it in for you, this is probably the conversation nobody wants to hear. We should be looking at assisted living questions. Is this an appropriate place for you now? We would love to say that we have 1,000 staff members here to do everything for everybody, but that's just not what it is. When you get into those levels, that's when you have a different staffing ratio in assisted living or in skilled care. While we're on the building services topic, let's talk about garbage. Garbage seems to be a hot topic again lately. There are 2 days, I said them yesterday and I already don't remember them. Thank you. I don't know why I cannot remember Mondays and Thursdays. It's just not sticking. So Mondays and Thursdays, I remember 8 p.m. Now, is anybody wandering the facility at 7 p.m.? No. But we ask you to be respectful of your neighbors. You moved into a community, which means there's people living next to you. And I get that your garbage in your apartment may stink, but putting it out in the hall a day or 2 days early to stink up the hallway is not an appropriate plan. Getting that garbage to one of the areas in the Great Lakes or St. Clair, that is the plan that you should be doing. If you cannot get that to there, you can call, and for a very nominal fee, somebody will stop what they're doing and come pick up your garbage. I think it's like $5, not big. However, the concept of just putting your garbage out any day of the week, leaving it out and stinking up the hallway has to stop. We will start charging people for that. When we do charges, what we do is we give you appropriate notice. I am not asking anybody to call and play phone tag for a month. That's not happening. We'll call you, we'll try to explain it to you. If you choose not to answer your phone, because they do choose not to answer their phones a lot, we will send you a letter. We might put it under your door if we never see you out and about. That letter will serve as notice that you will be getting a charge the next time we see that happening. If you have bulk pickups, I don't know if you went like wild shopping and you got a ton of bags and some boxes or anything, that's great. But if you have more than 2 bags, we do ask you to call, and this can be at any day, and arrange a pickup, and they will do that for you. However, just putting out 10 bags on a day is not a good idea, because it takes a long time. Again, somebody, I don't know if you've seen them walking the halls with those bins. They have to walk the halls, pick up everybody's bag, and then at the end, just so everybody knows, they do take a picture of the hallway to show, because we get a lot of people that will put their bag out later and then call and say that we didn't pick up trash. Yes, we did. We have a photo. Sadly, that's what his life has become, photos. I don't know if these phones were a good thing or a bad thing. Okay. How am I doing, Mike? Oh, I got 20 minutes. 2 more things on building services. I'm hoping this is not met with the same reception as yesterday. 3 things. Fence, south fence. It is not getting done in spring as a new, brand new, shiny white vinyl fence. That cost is upwards of $126,000. We thought there was a better way to spend $126,000. So Britt and his team are going to make sure the fence is secured, replace any areas that need to be replaced, including, I believe, the lattice tops, to make it as safe and beautiful as possible, no matter how old it is. And the goal is to relook at the fence next year for the vinyl fence, which God knows what the cost will be then. But $126,000, we can spend that inside on a lot of other things that are gonna affect you a lot more than the fence. So that was the decision made about that. Parking lot lines and parking spaces. So I don't know the ratio and I didn't look it up, but we don't get to decide how many handicap spaces are out there next to buildings. It's actually regulated. However many apartments and people can live there, this is how many handicap spaces you have. So when this place was built many moons ago, that was looked at, and that was part of an inspection that had to get done, and it still is looked at regularly in case we just go like spray paint wild and try to get rid of them. We didn't change the amount. We don't plan to change the amount. Everybody wants a handicap space, but everybody wants a first floor. There's only so many handicap spaces. There's only so many first floor apartments. What does that mean? We did post signs for the handicap spaces to ensure that that is supposed to be short term. Are there people that are going to ignore the signs? Yes, there are. If you see that there is a car parked there for an extended period of time, we ask you to call the front desk so they will get a hold of security. Security will make sure they take down the plate number and try to figure out who it is. We will issue them a fine. We are not at the point in time where we're going to actually call a tow truck in because the cars don't sit there that long. But if that ever gets to the point, then we'll let you know if that gets to the point. However, we only have so many spots. Speaking of parking lot lines, they will be painted spring, summertime. So I know the parking lot I usually park in, the lines are really good. I don't know about the other lots. I don't honestly look at the parking lot lines very often, but Britt has assured me in his plan for grounds that parking lot lines will be looked at and painted as needed. The pool. The pool and the hot tub. What can I say about the pool and the hot tub? It's old. It's old. I have a hot tub at my house. It's about 7 years old. I'm sure that's outdated. So I can just imagine this hot tub. When something like that breaks, I assure you that we are not sitting on that information because we have no reason, because this incites a lot of phone calls and not very nice phone calls. So we're not actually sitting there waiting to see how many horrid phone calls we can get in that day. We are reaching out immediately to whoever services our pool or hot tub. We try to stay with the same vendors that have been servicing this property since the beginning of the property. Why? They know the property. Why not stay with them? As long as they can make our needs happen, we'll stay with them. Here's the reality when things get old. Parts are not available that easy. Here's the other sad reality to that. What does that mean? So nowadays, when you order something, everybody logs into their computer and tells you, oh, we have that part. If it's for something that's 30 years old, it's not in the computer. Somebody has to step away from that computer at a place that we don't run, go back into the back and look for these old parts and say, oh, we still have that. Then they've got to either come out and be the one to call or tell somebody else, is this the part? Because whoever's taking that call probably doesn't know what the part is, so they got to wait to find somebody to ask somebody. It takes a little bit of time. It is frustrating, but I'm sure everybody that ever had to work in a situation where you had a boss that said, can you get the part? Yes. Is it going to take a couple weeks? Yes. Let's just get a whole new one. It doesn't happen. We are going to have to wait and get the parts. I don't know what it would cost to get an entire new hot tub, and I'm sure one day soon, all those random little parts that somebody has to leave the computer and go to the back room to look for are going to be gone. On that day, we will celebrate that we can get a new hot tub. Until then, we're going to have to be patient, which is frustrating. I get it. It's just how life works. I can't make it work any different. If I could get new things for everybody on a regular basis, you would all have brand new everything. I think that was all of the building services stuff that that we talked about yesterday. I do want to just kind of go on to the part about supplies and hot tub parts and all this other stuff. I did a lot of questioning, because again, I like to know what happened. What happened 20 years ago? How did you guys handle this? We spend an absurd amount of time on the phone with people asking us, who did you call? What did they say? When are they coming? Why didn't they come? Business is not the same. You worked in a time where business, you were very lucky. I can say that. I should have been born in the same time as you because I'm not patient. I don't like lax workers. I have to get it done. I have to get it done now. It's very frustrating for us too. But what we can't do is we can't spend our time saying, we called Mike's Pool Service. Mike's Pool Service said they'd be out Monday at 10. And then when you call us Monday at 10:05 because you don't see somebody at the pool, where'd they go? Mike's Pool Service employs Sam. Sam did what a lot of employees do. Sam called off. They don't call us to say Sam called off. Somebody maybe calls us that same day, maybe. Depends on who's answering the phones and if they called off or how many people called off, and they reschedule. The reason I'm saying this is because there's a lot of people that want to know all those details. What part is it? Who did you call? When are they coming? What time are they going to be here? What did they say? And I can appreciate it's very hard. I can imagine it will be very hard for me to stop asking questions as if I'm the administrator at wherever I'm living. But we can't answer those questions to everybody, and we're not going to try. We ask you to understand and remember that while it's frustrating for you, you have to let go and let us do our job. And if we're not answering the phone for 5 to 10 people to have that conversation, and then the family members, because some people will call their family and say, well, I tried calling them and they didn't tell us, so the family member says, I'm going to call them. And we go through the same conversation again. It's not getting us anywhere. All that's happening is that one person that took those 10 calls is wasting time taking 10 calls. They're not actually doing something. They might have been out doing something else, but they're not. So we ask you kindly to please let us run the campus. You live here. We want to hear what you have to say, but you're not going to be able to make business happen any differently. Believe me, I am a very forceful, nosy woman. So when people don't get things that they want, they often say, Laura, I need your help. And I call whoever I need to call to ask them, what is the problem? Why aren't they getting out here? How can we make this happen? Or, forget it, I'm done with you, I'm calling somebody else. So I have that conversation. My team can come to me, they know that. So I want you to let me do all those things that you want to do. Where's the part? When is it getting here? Why didn't they come? I ask those questions. They know I'm going to ask those questions. I need everybody else that's not working to not ask those questions so that we can spend time doing something else. 2 more topics, and then that's about 10 minutes, so I time this perfectly again. Medical information. This is kind of a twofold thing. So all the doctors are listed outside of the medical center with their phone numbers, their way to contact them, their days that they work. They're also listed in the craft room. I guess they've always been in the craft room. I'm not sure what they have to do with crafts, but they're in the craft room also. So there are some questions about, apparently at one point in time, there was doctors, I believe doctors, that came in here from Corewell, and they did speaking engagements to educate everybody on different topics. I love that. I don't know if I can make that happen again. I do have a contact person that is pretty high up in the operations at Corewell, so she owes me some favors. I'm going to call and see if I can help make that happen, as well as Dr. Asbahi works out of there, and I like to ask him for favors so that he can ask somebody else for favors too. So we're going to see if we can make that happen for everybody, at least on a quarterly basis. I'm not going to push them too much at first, but see if we can make that happen. I do understand at some point in time, they deemed a certain amount of people needing to be here for those conversations and those talks. So before we actually set one in place, we might do a little mini survey just to kind of see. It seems a lot of people ask for things and want things, but we never seem to find the right day or time for people to show up for those things. So I need you to help me help you. And if we say we want something, we have to come to it. Because if not, the doctors are not going to show up for a crowd this size. I'm going to tell you right now. These guys are busy. They don't like to do things outside of the box like that. But we maybe also get our regular doctors that come in to have some conversations also. So we will work on that. Smoking. This is the last topic and one of my favorite topics. Okay, this is a smoke-free campus. What does that mean in independent living? I want you to picture independent living like your home that you lived in before you got here. Maybe it was a single family home, maybe it was an apartment. it was yours. So if you imagine being at home and, I don't know, somebody made a rule, again, we're not going to get into politics, but let's just say there was a rule passed that you can't smoke in your house. Do you ever want the police to just walk into your home and say, hey, there's a rule of no smoking? No. Your homes are your homes. And in independent living, you signed a lease. And in that lease, there's agreements to when we can come into your homes. I have to honor those agreements. Not everybody just wants, some people say, just walk in, it's okay, they're not supposed to smoke. Well, a lot of people are like, get out of my apartment. That's not what we're doing here. What do? Do we walk around and sniff hallways? Yes, sadly I do. I walk around. When I'm walking through, I might go, I smell something. Here's the reality. I can knock on the door and say, are you smoking in here? And somebody can say no, if they even open the door, because usually they don't open the door. So how are we ever going to catch people smoking and make them follow the rules? Well, I believe in karma, and sometimes things happen. So how have we had that happen in the past? Let's just say in the past, somebody sadly has fallen. Well, they fall, we come into their apartment, and there's cigarette butts in the ashtray, and there's burn holes on the floor. Well, I don't really have to be a genius to figure out that you're in here smoking. Now you violated the contract. Here is now your letter. Once I know for sure that you are smoking, and I smell smoke near your apartment, because in the hallway it is kind of hard sometimes to figure out exactly which apartment it is. I can get it at a range, but I can't figure out, is it this one or that one all the time? Well, if I've seen burn holes in your carpet, you're the smoker, so we're gonna go with that. We have evicted people. What I can't do is I can't just knock on the door and let myself in. Ha ha, I'm catching you smoking. It's not gonna happen. I can't do that. It's in your lease and it's illegal. And I don't plan to violate your rights, no matter how many people will ask me to. I am not going to do that. So we do have to be mindful of each other and say, hey, if you're smoking, we understand it's horrible to go across the street. But let's please be mindful, there are people that have conditions, they move to a no smoking area because they can't tolerate the smoke. So if you, again, have chose to live in a community, that means you wanted to care about yourself and the people around you. So if you're really wanting to care about the people around you, we need you to understand we're not putting rules in place just for the fun of it. That rule was in place before you got here, and at some point in time when we can figure out who's smoking and they shouldn't be smoking, you will be evicted. That's just what it is. The smoking is across at Birthplace Park or anywhere outside of the black fence. I don't know what color the fence is along Greenfield. So anywhere outside of the fence, let's just say that. Don't go into the neighbors in the south side. I don't think they're gonna be happy about that. There are going to be 2 ashtrays now at Birthplace Park. Britt and I didn't realize that we didn't designate that, but somebody designated that as the smoking area and didn't put ashtrays over there. So we will be putting ashtrays over there. I want everybody to just kind of remember when you're thinking about what you want people to do here or what you want us to control here, we can control the common areas a lot easier than we can control what happens in your individual apartments. Because again, you have rights. You signed a lease. No matter what happens in that apartment, unless it's deemed as a risk or emergency to others, we cannot just let ourselves in the door for the fun of it. So we will continue to honor that. So when you're requesting things, and we say to you, we can't always do that, usually it's because what you're asking us to do is violate somebody's rights. And we can't do that. In saying that, that was pretty much all the questions that were asked as a whole. There were some one-offs and some things that pertain to mostly 1 or 2 individuals, or they went back to the thought process of Henry Ford days. What's your census? Not telling you. I've been told that we're not talking about those things. Again, you're retired, just live here. Just have a great time. Go to happy hour, do all the things that you want to do. Let me worry about the census. Let Mike worry about the census. You guys can just live and hang out and have a good time. We do plan to have another one of these again. We're going to do it the same kind of way. We're thinking maybe once a quarter. And our goal is to figure out how we can take these questions, if we can take them, and write them up also. I know that we post things on CCTV for people to watch, but there's some people that don't watch it, and they still want to know the answers. So we're trying to figure that out. We are not planning to necessarily stuff cubbies. I know that frustrates people. Here's some of the reality I want everybody to think about when it comes to stuffing cubbies. Almost all of these topics are covered in your lease. What does that tell me? We're not reading the lease. And if it's not in the lease, it's in your welcome packet. Now, you might have been here a while ago, but I can tell you the welcome packet has not really updated, except it has a V on it now instead of the Henry Ford Village. It's in your welcome packet. If you need a new welcome packet, we will gladly get you one. But what I'm saying is, if I've already printed approximately 14 pages that you have access to, if I keep printing the same things over and over again, I'm really just taking down trees and littering. That paper ends up outside, then you're yelling at me that the paper is outside. You get what I'm saying? We're not going to be able to print everything. I need you to go back and look and read what you have. But we are trying to make sure that everybody has access to the information. So again, if you can't find your welcome packet and you needed some information and you thought it was useful in there, we can get you a new welcome packet. But we won't just keep printing new materials on new pieces of paper, because this will be the piece of paper that everybody reads and everybody keeps. I'm just not buying that that's gonna really happen. If I thought it was gonna, I'd be printing it out of my own dime. I thank you all for coming and spending an hour and a half with me, and my lips didn't get dry to this time, so somebody must have adjusted the humidity in here. I appreciate each and every one of you, and if you have more questions, please feel free to send them to Mike. What Mike does, and what we didn't talk about this yesterday, so this is the one treat. A lot of times when you see Mike and I just on CHIPCAST, if you watch it, so if you don't watch it, it's a highly rated show. When we're on there just kind of having chats, hey, let's talk about this, let's talk. The topics we're talking about are the repeat questions that we hear people having. There may be times that we don't have a lot of questions, but most of the time what drives that show, and really the only reason that I do the show, is to talk about topics to try to get all that information out to everybody. I'm not generally just on there talking about absolutely nothing. It is about topics that keep coming up, whether it be repeat or not, because then I'm not killing trees to keep passing out the paper. I'm just talking about it. I do joke around a lot on there. We laugh at each other a lot on there. So it's just harmless. I believe in laughing on a daily basis. I think it keeps you young. So I'm gonna keep laughing, because I have not found the fountain of youth that you all have here somewhere. But I am still looking for it. So I appreciate you. If anybody wants to tell me where that is, I will gladly slip you a free month's rent. Everybody have a good day. I'm gonna go do birthday celebration.